Hey, welcome back to Walking the Dogs, the weekly podcast where we'll unpack how to architect GTM, onboarding, and customer experience across marketing and customer success to drive growth in small to mid-sized SaaS orgs using my growth framework. It's Lisa here, out with Dusty and Tanner, where we work off some canine energy and try to solve a few go-to-market problems along the way. Today, we're talking about one of the most misleading phrases in business. Our teams are aligned. Because a company can have weekly revenue meetings, shared dashboards, a CRM, and an annual kickoff where everyone wears the same t-shirt and still have marketing, sales, and product, customer success running completely different plays. Marketing can hit its lead target while the company misses its revenue target. Sales can hit its activity target while pipeline quality gets worse. Customer success can hit its onboarding target and customers never meaningfully adopt the product. Product can ship new capabilities. The market's unclear about why we should care about the product. Everyone looks successful inside their own dashboard until the revenue system fails. That is simply not a communication problem. It's not even primarily an alignment problem. It's an operating model problem. And that is why this belongs in the gauge stage of the growth framework. Gauge is where we examine how the revenue system actually works today. Not how the organization chart says it should work, not how the leadership presentation says it should work, and not how everyone hopes it works. You trace what really happens from the first sign of buyer interest through adoption, retention, and expansion. And you identify where the customer journey changes hands without a clear owner, trigger, or next action. Oop. Dusty and Tanner are giving me a pretty good example of this right now. Dusty has decided that the destination is the park. Tanner appears convinced that the destination is something interesting behind that hedge. And I'm attempting to keep us moving in one general direction. This walk does not work if one person is heading toward the park, another person is walking back toward home, and nobody agrees on who is holding which leash. Before the walk begins, we need to know the destination. We need a route. We need to know who is holding each leash. We need to know when we can stop. We need to know what happens when one of the dogs pulls in another direction. And ultimately, we need to know how everyone gets home together. That is the idea behind the one revenue team. It doesn't mean that everyone does the same job. Marketing should not become sales. Sales should not become customer success. And customer success should not become product. It means every function understands its role in moving the same customer toward the same business outcome. The simplest way to see whether that is happening is to build a journey map with revenue aligned. Start with one significant customer segment, not your entire market. Choose a real segment with a specific growth objective. Maybe the objective is to create new enterprise customers. Maybe it is to improve activation for a product-led offer. Maybe it's to increase adoption inside existing accounts. Maybe it is to create expansion pipeline from customers already using one part of the product. Write down the growth objective first. That is your destination. Then identify the target accounts and buyers. Who exactly are you trying to move? What problem are they experiencing? What event or trigger makes that problem urgent enough to act on now? And this matters because a buyer who casually downloads a report is not necessarily in the same situation as a major operational failure, a leadership change, contract renewal, or some strategic mandate. Interest is not intent. Activity is readiness. Map the journey stages. At each stage, we document the marketing play. What is marketing doing to create interest, demand capture the buying group with confidence? Then document the sales play. What action should sales take? Under what conditions and with what context? Then map the onboarding play. How does the customer experience the first meaningful proof of value? Not the first login, not the first training session. The first moment when the customer can say, "This is working." Then we map customer success play. How will the organization move the customer from first value to sustained adoption? And after adoption, what signals should trigger an expansion play? Those signals might include increasing usage, additional teams entering the product, new business units showing interest, a customer might be reaching a capacity threshold, or new intent is appearing somewhere else in the account. This is where major revenue plays connect. Demand generation creates and captures interest. ABM concentrates resources around priority accounts. Sales turns meaningful engagements into conversations. Customer success drives adoption, retention, and measurable intent signals. They are connected parts of one customer journey, but most customers manage them as separate departmental processes. Marketing says, "We've delivered the lead." Sales says the marketing lead was not qualified. Customer success says, "We were not involved and we don't know what was promised." Product says, "No one told us that capability was critical." And the customer is left standing in the middle, wondering why they have to explain their problem again every time they meet someone new. That is what happens when the journey changes hands, but the context does not. For every stage in your journey map, assign an owner. Then define the handoff condition. What must be true before the ownership changes? A form submission is usually not enough. A lead score is also often not enough. A completed contract is definitely not enough to ensure onboarding readiness. Define the service level expectation. How quickly must the next team act? What information must travel with the customer? What is the primary metric for that stage? And what is the next best action if a customer does not follow the expected path? Because customers do not move neatly from left to right. They pause. They revisit earlier questions. They invite new stakeholders. They disappear and return. They start a trial and never activate. They adopt one use case while ignoring the one you expected them to use. Your operating model needs to account for that reality. Well, right now, Tanner stopped pulling toward the hedge and is catching up with Dusty. That did not happen because I announced that we were aligned. It happened because I adjusted the route, shortened the leash, gave Tanner a moment to investigate toward the same, and got us, Tanner and Dusty, moving in the same direction again. Revenue alignment works the same way. It's not a declaration. It's a series of operating decisions, shared objectives, defined roles, visible signals, explicit handoffs, agreed service levels, and a clear next action when the customer does something unexpected. So here's the dog I want you to walk this week, other than the ones barking. Choose one important customer segment and map one complete revenue journey. Start with the growth objective. Identify the buyer, the problem, and the trigger. Then map the marketing, sales, product, onboarding, customer success, and the expansion play to every stage. Define every handoff, specify the SLA, choose the primary metric, and identify the next best action. You may discover that your revenue team is not actually running one coordinated journey. You may discover that each function has been optimizing its own short stretch of sidewalk. That is exactly what the gauge stage is designed to reveal. Because your revenue team is not a team simply because everyone attends the same meetings. It becomes a team when everyone knows the destination, understands the route, owns their part of the journey, and helps the customer get all the way home. So where does your customer journey currently change hands without a clear owner, trigger, or next step? That may be the most important dog you walk today. Thanks for joining me on Walking the Dogs. Dusty and Tanner are finally headed in the same direction. So I'm going to go take a walk for the win. I'll see you on the next walk.